Everybody, it is time for the On Texas Football post-game show. I'm Bobby Burton, joined by lifetime Longhorns, former NFL players Brian Robison and Rod Babers. Guys, the Longhorns beat up on the Roadrunners 56-7, but it was kind of a circuitous route to the victory. It was not straightforward. Injuries, bumps, and bruises, a couple of turnovers. It was just not your normal route to get to 56-7. I don't know how to say it other than that. We even had a big man touchdown to close it out. I still don't know how Ethan Burke caught that ball or what did it hit off the guy's butt? I couldn't tell.
Oh, wow.
Brian, Rod, what did you guys think? Brian, I'll give you a chance to go first, buddy.
Well, I think I've never said wow in so many different ways throughout a game. I mean, it was like, wow, wow, wow. I mean, it was parts of it were beautiful, parts of it were ugly, and parts of it were just kind of made you scratch your head. So I think overall, they did what they needed to do, which was come out with a victory, get a big win. I think they got some coaching points that they can take back to the film room and they can learn from before they, get to Louisiana Monroe next week and then heading into conference play in the SEC. So I think overall this was a good game that they probably needed to have and try to shore up some of those deals.
Rod B., what did you think, buddy?
Just shows you the talented depth, right? There you go, Jay. Thank you. That's a perfect timing for that. Really impressed with the depth of this team. At one time, you had, you didn't start Jaden Blue. He didn't even play in the game. Then Kelvin Banks got nicked up, and Trey Wisner got nicked up at one time, and Malik Muhammad got nicked up. Of course, we talk about the Quinn Ewers injury. We'll get into that in a little bit more depth. But I mean, at one time, you didn't have like 4 of your top 10 players available to you, and yet you're still able to go out there and as Brian said, there were some ugly times, all right? There were some ugly plays. There were some penalties, and it seemed like that the guys were sloppy at times, right? But that's the potential of this team and how good they are. Now, UTSA, consider the opponent. But this team still put a 50 burger on somebody, 56-7. And the coaches, they're loving this because they got so much to coach up on for next game, even though you still had a 56-7 win. So the depth on this team is unbelievable at quarterback, on the O-line, at running back, at wide receiver. It's being tested early on too, by the way. It's already being tested. It's going to be tested all year long, the depth on this team at numerous different positions. But I think right now, and it's a great sign that, yes, you may have some sloppy play, but you don't have significant drop-off from the ones to the twos to the threes. There's not this precipitous drop-off in talent at any of the positions, really. And we're starting to see that early on.
I completely agree about the depth of this team. Before we get into the passing leaders and talk about Quinn Ewers and his injury, as well as a little bit of a coming out party for Arch Manning, I didn't realize he's such a big play guy, but geez.
Wow.
Long story short, I want to say thank you first to our friends over at Yuengling and Flight. We appreciate them very much. Flight is the next generation of light beer with only 95 calories. It's an upscale light beer designed to elevate the customer experience with more taste and just 4.2 carbs. Flight's an easy-to-drink beer with a crisp taste. Try Flight from Yuengling, thanks to the fine folks over at Flight and our friends at Faust Distributing. Guys, let's look at the passing numbers here. Quinn Ewers, outside of a kind of interception, I don't even know what to think of that interception because it was so odd for him to throw that. He was on the money early and often, 14 of 16 for 185 and 2 TDs. He didn't even finish the second quarter. Arch Manning comes in, goes 19 of 223 for 4 touchdowns. Trey Owens, 2 of 4 for 19 yards. Longhorns altogether put up a pretty good night as passing goes. 25 of 32 guys for 427 yards. That's getting after it. What did you guys think about Quinn Ewers and that injury? You guys have both been injured before. They're saying it's an abdominal strain. It almost looked like a hernia of sorts down there where it maybe breaks through the wall down there or something like that. I don't know. What did y'all think of that injury and what it looked like to you guys from just watching it?
It was enough for him to lay down right on the field, Brian. That's what worried me. If it's a strained abdominal, if it's a minor one, I don't know if he's on the ground with it. I think he might just kind of come off the field favoring it, but he went to the ground, and that's what worries me, that it's an abdominal strain, but maybe I think there are like 3 degrees of it, and that maybe it's more of a grade 2 or something like that than the most serious, or at least the most minor of those type of injuries.
Yeah, I think for me, when I looked at it, originally I thought the same thing you did, Bobby. When he was coming off, he was kind of holding real low, but then you kind of saw on the TV, it looked like he was showing it much higher, almost like up towards the rib cage area. So you got to hope that maybe it is just an abdominal strain up there. And I don't know if most people know this or not, but man, everything you do involves your abdominal. I mean, every turn, every twist, every tense moment. I mean, it all really has that muscle that engages, and it can be very, very painful. So hopefully this is something that, they can work through in the next coming weeks and get him back very soon.
He looked sharp, guys, starting off, throwing the ball well. I thought he mixed it up pretty well to the receivers. They did not go to the backs as much out of the backfield today. It was more receiver driven with the absence of Jaden Blue, but we saw several different receivers catch touchdowns, whether that was Isaiah Bond, Jonte Cook. I think both of those guys had 2 touchdowns. DeAndre Moore got in there as well. Longhorns right now, Ryan Wingo also had a big long one. Look at this. Ryan Wingo with 127 yards receiving. Isaiah Bond, 103. Just a total performance altogether, I think, from the receiving group. The quarterbacks distributing the ball really well.
Ryan Wingo, guys. Okay, at this point now, because he's led you in receiving two games out of right so far this season. At this point, if you don't play Ryan Wingo more, if he's not getting increased usage and increased reps week to week, that's borderline malpractice at this point. Because that dude, right? Because Tom Herman did that with Bijan. Remember, Tom? We were like, dude, you got to play Bijan more. He's like, nah, he's still a freshman. We're like, we don't care. He is just that good. He's a prodigy. Prodigies, you skip him ahead a couple of grades. Ryan Wingo at this point, it's time to skip him ahead a couple of grades. He might need to be, I ain't gonna say just make him a starter, but he needs to be in the rotation more heavily in the rotation from this point forward. He's averaging 31 yards per touch.
Yeah.
And I think you're seeing the confidence with Sark that he has in him, especially putting him in a Michigan game, right? That's a big game on the road, and the confidence that he had in him to throw him out there and kind of go through the plays. But even today, you're starting to see that he is a legit big play threat, and having him on the field makes every DB out there think twice about how they're going to cover. And you know how that goes, right? When you get a guy that's a bona fide playmaking receiver, your eyes may supposed to be on this guy over here, but your eyes kind of where's he at? Is he in the slot? Is he in, you know what I'm saying? So it's one of those deals. It's just having him on the field right now with the things and numbers that he's putting up is huge. But man, one thing I want to talk about, man, really and truly technically first 3 drives, but really one of them was a 1-play interception deal. But first 2 drives, 8 receivers touched the ball in the first 2 drives. I mean, that is the absolute epitome of spreading the ball around.
Ball distribution was terrific.
I don't know. To Brian's point, I brought this up the other day too. I don't even know if we're going to get 1,000-yard rusher or 1,000-yard receiver with this group. They're just so they spread around the distribution is just so widespread. I'm not saying you won't have guys that are leading receivers game to game and guys that are capable of being 1-1s, but it's I think it's going to be different guys, and maybe Ryan Wingo's that guy, but it's amazing. That's how deep they are. I think it's a compliment more to the offense than anything.
They looked. I was just thinking about the Gunnar Helm catch and run.
Oh,
I mean, where's it? I mean, he's put on a cape the last 2 weeks, basically. It looked like Superman out there. Don't know where he got it. But to y'all's point, whether it was Isaiah Bond, Matthew Golden, all those guys played a role tonight. Also, a young man that had a really good night. Had 2 bad drives, I would say, in the intermediate time, but I think scored 5 touchdowns overall. Arch Manning talked to our CJ Vogel and the rest of the media a little bit earlier tonight, just minutes ago. And Matt, our producer, has that for us. Matt, do you mind rolling that film, buddy? Oh, he wasn't even talking. He's just signing autographs. Whoop, I got the wrong note there from Matt. We'll get Sark's audio here in a second, guys. But what did y'all think of Arch Manning tonight? Coming off the bench, obviously the very first play is that roll right, Rod. He's called that. Sark has called that for him. His first 3 passes have always been that play, going back to last year. Then he comes in against Colorado State, runs the same play. And then he puts him out there against Texas, UT San Antonio, runs that roll right, and he hits the same guy all 3 times. Different players each time, but the same route concept. What did y'all think of Arch's night tonight, guys?
Man, I thought he had a really good night. And going to your point there, why wouldn't you do that, right? As a defense, most of the time we're thinking when the backup quarterback comes in, they're going to run the ball, try to get him comfort and everything else. And Sark has been, obviously an offensive genius. He's the guy that says, okay, we're going to do things a little bit different here and catch him off guard. And so they've been able to have success with that with Arch coming in the game. But, man, overall, you couldn't ask for a better start from him, and you couldn't ask for a better ending for him. Now, that middle part, it's freshmen, right? You got freshmen out there. He misses the backside blitz that they came off the edge at him. They threw that at him. And then, I felt like a couple of his reads were a little bit slower. Now, I don't know if that came to play calling. We tried to do some different things and then got away from what he was being successful with early on and then got back to that, or if that was just some reads that Arch missed. I'm sure that Arch is probably going to pick up the phone tonight, call some relatives of his, and not ask them for running advice. I can tell you that, but but definitely, kind of talk through those deals so he can learn from those. But overall, man, it's a great situation for Texas fans to have, because if you are going to have a guy go down and you've got a guy like that can come in the game and complete the passes that he was able to complete, make the plays he was able to make, not only with his arm but with his legs as well, that's a good position to be in.
Yeah. He's starting his career. It's almost the stuff of, mythology, the way he's kind of starting his career where, he comes in there and first damn play he comes in, he's up throwing a touchdown pass. And then he has I got this stat because they showed it in the stadium. His 67-yard rushing touchdown was the longest by a Texas quarterback since VY. In 2005. Right? It's like,
oh, wow.
What is happening here? Right? He's got that it quality, man. He's got it. I, along with all you guys and Longhorn fans everywhere, it's hard not to get excited and to not get a little bit of, those tingles, man. Not to get a little bit of those tingles when he gets in the game and starts making those kinds of plays. Yes, he's still a young quarterback, right? So you still see some of the ups and the downs. You don't get the consistent baseline, but we all know that's coming. But his upside and the wow factor that Brian brought up, that a lot of the plays, a lot of wows that you mentioned earlier, Brian, I'm sure were to Arch Manning plays. It's only a matter of time. And honestly, even with the way he's playing right now, he's still better than how many starting quarterbacks in college football? How many? 7,
I think
80%.
I think 0-3 Florida State's raising their hand right now and say, "Hey, can we trade?" This is quarterback heaven. We are sitting here laughing and joking. Our quarterback went down. All right, starting quarterback went down, and we're the number 2 team in the country, and no Longhorn fan is stressing. And that's a credit to Steve Sarkisian. By the way, Quinn's going to be a first-round quarterback, by the way. All right? That's going to be a first-round quarterback, so ain't an insult to him at all. It just tells you how deep the quarterback position is. As a credit to Sark that he's been able to stockpile that kind of talent at quarterback. And, yeah, man, you got your starting quarterback can make those wild plays, and so can Arch. And I saw from real analytics, and I don't know how true this is, but this is
this is a company that tracks, player speed analytically, with GPS tracking. And they claim that Arch Manning got up to 20.7 miles per hour on the run. So they said 24/7. If that's the case, then the rest of college football is in trouble. You got a Manning as what'd you say, Brian? A mobile Manning? You got a mobile Manning that can do that. Because I guarantee those guys been watching Texas run that, that zone read fake over and over again on film. Nobody's coaching you up that the quarterback's gonna keep it. Not in the Sark offense. And that dude just keeps it. Wow, that was crazy.
Well, and I'll say this, man. I mean, I don't doubt that he didn't get up to 20.7 miles per hour, because at one point I thought he was going to blow a tire. He started stumbling there for a little bit. Hey, he was pulling off, but he started stumbling. I was like, he ain't supposed to be running that fast. Like, his last name does not allow him to run that fast.
So true. So true. Hey, look, we had two good quarterback performances. Quinn, it looked like it was an odd performance in some ways because he started out of the gate. I mean, Texas went 8 straight passes, by the way. I thought Texas might try to establish the run in this game early, but given that Blue was out, they went to the pass. 8 straight passes out of the gate. Quinn was 7 of 8, but on that really nice touchdown throw, by the way, to Isaiah. That was just nasty. You could tell he got nicked on the thumb on the follow through.
Yep.
And then that next pass was the interception that he came back with. But then it looked like the thumb wasn't what was bothering him, because he was on the money the rest of the way, right? But the injury, I'm still trying to figure out when in that game he was injured. I don't know that. Did anybody see, either of you guys see when he might have been injured or no?
To me, it looked like it was the play before he went down. And the only reason I say that was because right after he had the play, you could see him kind of get this little limp. And then he ran up there, ran the next play, and then you saw him motion to the sideline, like, come get me out. And then that was when he went down. So it looked like something on that prior play to that was where it maybe hit. And maybe that could have just been the compound of multiple plays, but that's where it looked like to me that Quinn really felt the abdomen and was like, okay, something's not right.
Yeah, it was weird. It's almost like it happened on a handoff. Like he handed the ball off and then somebody followed through and hit him or something. I couldn't exactly tell, but the Longhorns on offense definitely looked the part. They had a couple of, y'all mentioned it, sputters there late in the second quarter after Arch had come in and scored 2 touchdowns, right? So Sark was trying to get him to run the 2-minute offense. That didn't look real pretty. But, hey, he held on to the ball. Arch held on to the ball on that sack when that could have been hurtful, by the way, too. Long story short, what did y'all think? Let's switch over to the defense now. We've talked a lot about the offense. What were y'all's thoughts about the defense tonight? Did not give up a ton of yardage, but this is not a really great offensive team for UTSA this year. Y'all have any initial thoughts on the D?
I thought the D played well. I mean, that obviously the big run they gave up, that's not ideal, the touchdown run. But other than that, and they seem to just kind of play everything straight up. I didn't see them take a lot of chances. I think they blitzed, a little bit, but they didn't take a lot of chances. I didn't see a ton of exotic looks, matchup-based looks from Johnny Nance. And obviously, I'll go back and look at it in more detail on the second watch. But, I think Texas pretty much, played everything straight up. And they didn't really try to take away the identity of UTSA, because I don't know if UTSA really established an identity, except in the passing game. They made some plays, but I think Texas defense played pretty well other than the touchdown they gave up. I mean, that was the big explosive play that I think for Texas, they'll go back and that'll be the one that the coaches really coach them up on.
Yeah, I thought it was an over-pursuing linebacker again.
It was,
that was the culprit, most likely. Now, I don't know the call or what have you. Brian, what did you think of the defensive performance? The ends, Colin Simmons looked like he shot out of a cannon. Colton Vosick got a sack. Barron Sorrell had a couple of nice stops, one on 3rd down and another on 4th down. What did you think of the defensive front tonight?
Yeah, I thought they looked good, man. I think our front interior guys have looked great all season long. You know, we had a lot of question marks coming into the season with them. I thought they've done really well. I know the one thing that Texas fans are just searching for right now is getting quarterbacks on the ground, and that will come. Like you got to give these guys opportunities to get it, and they just haven't had as many opportunities. But tonight, you could tell like they were getting past offensive tackles, they were getting off of the ball really fast. Colin Simmons, especially. I don't care whether it's run game, pass game, doesn't matter. That dude is running around all over the field like he's running at a different speed than everybody else up front. And going to the point of the run that got out, to me it looked like just kind of a almost a scheme deal. It was a little bit of an X block on the backside. They pulled the guys around, created some numbers there. He squeaked through, and David Benda just kind of missed the tackle. He kind of squeaked out through the hole, and I think David Benda saw it late and didn't quite get to it. So those things are going to happen. I mean, obviously you don't want them to happen, but sometimes those things are going to happen. But overall, man, I felt like the defense played really well today. I mean, I got to say, man, through the first 3 games, I've been extremely satisfied with the defensive backs. That was a huge question coming into this season. And I thought they not only have played with maximum effort, physicality, but it just seems like they are just gelling together. And that's the main thing. Rod, you can attest to this. That's the main thing. When you've got 4 or 5 DBs playing together, probably the most important thing is not talent, not physicality. It's how you gel together, the camaraderie between y'all, the communication. And I think you're really starting to see that these guys kind of got it together.
Yep, totally agree with you. They're playing with better football. Situationally, they're playing with better football IQ. They're playing you can tell they're actually playing situations as opposed to just playing the defense and their responsibilities and coverage. Guys are thinking the game through, and that's why they make a lot more plays on the football. So I agree with them, and they are the biggest surprise on defense. There's no doubt. We did not think the DBs would be this buttoned up this early.
I think they've got at least 4 of the guys are high IQ football players. There may be more, but Jalen Gilbo looks like it. Manny Muhammad looks like it. Jade Barron is. Michael Taff is. And I think Andrew Makuba is.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe that's the big piece of it. Hey, we've got Jerry Hamilton joining us now. Jerry's in here. Jerry, you had something for us?
No. I'm not taking anything away. I'm here to listen to Brian and Rod talk about the game. But I wanted to be here to keep people updated on the Kentucky-Georgia game.
Mm-hmm.
Georgia responded to Kentucky. Kentucky's got the ball, 6.5 minutes to go, 13-12 Georgia. So I'm just here to listen, and y'all will see me react if Texas is going to be ranked number 1 tomorrow.
Well, hey,
I like that.
I tell you what, Jerry, we'll keep you in touch. Hey, I did get a text. We are hearing that we do not think that the Quinn Ewers injury is going to be super serious. Obviously, it's very, very early, but that's a note that I just got from CJ Vogel there. Again, it is very, very early. That doesn't mean he doesn't sit out ULM. I'm not saying that. Let's get some guys healthy here. Jaden Blue, I was told, could have went today, by the way, and Sark held him out. So it's not like there's not precedent in that regard from what Steve Sarkisian will do there as well. All right, guys, look, we've talked about just about all of this stuff right now. But my question to y'all is, did this match expectations for you tonight, or was it something different? Like I felt like it was okay, and then Quinn kind of went out, and we got all muddled for a little while, and they lost focus. A couple of different, by the way, procedure penalties again on offense. It's almost like they came out pretty good and had their mind straight, and then football happened basically, and they lost their way a little bit, but then they regained it early in the second half. Really, that first drive from Arch put them back on the scoreboard, and from there it was off to the races. What did y'all think overall? Like as a performance, was it consistent? Was it not what you expected? What have you?
Not what I expected, but I'm glad it happened. I think I predicted like 56-9 or something like that. So the score ended up being around what I thought it would be. but it didn't look the way that I predicted or the way that I envisioned the game going. But I like it, and the reason I like it, guys, is because they faced adversity, and we didn't know if they were going to face any adversity in this game. Really, we didn't know if UTSA was going to put up much of a fight, competition wise, and talent gap, all that stuff. But so the adversity came in a different form. It came guys going down, some sloppy play, a hell of a distraction when your starting quarterback goes down. I mean, everybody knows that. That really can throw the team into just kind of just being discombobulated, right? Chaos. That didn't, well, you said it happened for a little while, little stretch, little pockets of it, but the team had enough poise. They had enough, I think good leadership on the team where they got everything calmed down. And I think all the guys were able to step up and make plays and then get back that consistent. We talk about that baseline of consistency and playing to the standard that they talk about. So I like that they had the adversity. I think it was good. Thank God we have the depth we do. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here in a good mood because you would have had a drop off, when the second string guys and the third string guys had to play. But we didn't see that much of a drop off because the depth is really talented.
Brian, what was this? What you expected from this game?
I think for me, it was kind of what I expected. I mean, you're coming off an emotional victory at Michigan, even though that was kind of a runaway victory. It's still very emotional when you go into a stadium like that with history, tradition, and not only that, a top 10 ranked opponent. You play with emotions. Your heart is on your sleeve. So I kind of expect there to be a little lull. You go from that to coming back home to play UTSA, not a top tier opponent. But going back to what Rod said, I think the good thing about it was you learned some coaching points. You learned how your players are going to handle adversity, how they're going to handle successes and failures. I think they got some things thrown at them today by UTSA that they didn't expect either. I mean, I think the high tempo offense caught them off guard a little bit. And not saying they wasn't ready for that, but I think at times UTSA, really executed very well in some of that deal, especially towards the end of the second half. But you got to see the adversity there. They go down, they get to break the big run, they score, they kind of get back into the ball game. You're thinking they might score again and make it a 2-score ball game or kick the field goal and get the field goal. They end up missing the field goal. Texas comes about in the second half, and then it was pretty much all done from there. So the one things that I've got notes here is you go from having not enough guys on the field on defense to then later in the game, you got too many guys on the field. So just some communication issues, things like that. I don't know if that's just kind of being lackadaisical because of the opponent. But like Rod said, the value in this team is the depth, right? You can afford to have, maybe an execution error or something like that, be able to pull a guy off the field, explain to him what he did wrong, have another guy that there's not going to be any drop off, and then get him back out there. So having those opportunities, especially in these type of ball games, I think is only going to help you in the long run, especially once they get into the SEC play.
Hey, Bobby, update real quick. Kentucky, 3 first downs, 1 on a hold on Malachi Starks, the All-American. 2nd and 8 from the Georgia 48 with 3:35 to go. So definitely we're in monitoring mode if Kentucky gets a field goal attempt.
I can't believe that we're going to be talking about the potential Longhorns being ranked number 1. I hesitate to say that because I don't know that I saw a number 1 ranked team tonight. I'll put that out there. Granted, we don't know what we saw sometimes tonight, but Quinn Ewers goes out. Your number 1 running back is out. Texas probably. I just don't know. We'll have to wait and see whether or not Texas deserves that. But Georgia's got to lose first. Hey guys, I look at it, and y'all were talking about other guys stepping up in this game. One of the guys, I'll just mention the guy, Anthony Smith, young linebacker on that 4th down stop, number 26. He is a inside linebacker that's a true freshman. He stepped up at times. I thought Ryan Wingo stepped up at times. We saw a couple other guys. Juan Davis really is becoming a mainstay as a blocker on this team right now. Who are some of the guys that y'all saw that kind of registered with you guys tonight? Brian, I'll start with you. If there were 1 or 2 guys that you kind of just said, that looks different to me, or those guys look like they're players we need to talk about.
Man, for me, it's been honestly the interior D line. I mean, and I'll tell you why. You've got Vernon Broughton, you've got Alfred Collins, you've got some of these guys, but the way that they have continuously, I mean, you look at some of those guys, the way they're flying out of the stack, chasing some of these tackles down. As a big man, I love that because I was a high motor guy. We'll just call it how it is. I was a high motor guy. So to see some of these guys up front that we had big question marks going to the season. To me, that's attitude, right? That's attitude. And I think they've heard all that chatter throughout the offseason, and they've realized, like, we've got to prove a point. And so not only is that from just standing up, being big men in the middle, making sure that nobody can get a push on us up front like they did last week against Michigan, but also, hey, if it's a screenplay, if it's something that's a short pass, we got to run out of stack and make plays in that aspect of the ball game too. And to me, that's been the big deal, is seeing those guys really step up in the absence of a Tavondre Sweat, in the absence of a Byron Murphy. And you've got a plethora of guys when it comes to those interior guys. We've heard name after name, just like we have with the receiver group. We've heard name after name with the interior D-line group. And I include guys like Ethan Burke in that because they're putting their hand in the dirt as well, right? And so for me, that to me has been the biggest surprise.
Hey, I want to add one that you talked about is a newcomer, really. Tia Savea, number 98.
Yeah.
Made a couple stops. He had not played much this year. He saw his most action. He looked pretty good out there. Rod, did you have a guy or two that you were thinking of that you saw and said, hey, that looks good to me. He needs to maybe play more, or it's more of one of those things of, hey, I like what I'm seeing out there?
Yeah, I mean, I'll echo some of the same things that Brian brought up on the D line. I like, first of all, Colin Simmons. How do you not start with that dude? He's just twitchy and freaky coming off the edge. That guy could end up getting double-digit sacks this year, guys. It's realistic.
They chipped him a couple times in the second half. I don't know.
That's smart. Yeah, and they're wise to do so. What's the last time we had a guy with double-digit sacks? We go back, what, 2013, somewhere like that? Yeah, 20.
It was either that or Ominahu.
Ominahu had like 9.5 or something like that.
Okay.
He was close, so he's one of them dudes. But it's been a while. Is my point, right? It doesn't happen every time. Every so often, you get a guy with that natural pass rushing ability to finish the way he does. So I like Colin Simmons down there. I thought the edges overall. I mean, when you get a big boy touchdown, I mean, how do you not like that, right? The big boy touchdown with Ethan Burke, that was great. And I saw Colton Vasek flash a little bit. I like Leon Lafau. I think he's starting to make some plays out there, and the coaches are starting to trust him a little bit more. Yeah, somebody brought up Manny Muhammad. Listen, Manny Muhammad's been fantastic all season long. He really has been. I just fear, we'll forget about him, and that's for a corner element to be good because teams won't test him as much, number one, because they don't want to throw at him because he plays such sticky coverage, and then he'll get only like 1 or 2 opportunities a game to make a play. He'll make those plays, but unless it's a big play or a pick, we won't give him enough props. But he has been fantastic so far this year. So he's another guy. I mean, but he gets enough playing time. We're talking about guys who should probably have earned more trust with the coaches. I think, I'll say that Leon Lafau is one of those guys. Colin Simmons obviously is one of those guys. And I'll throw out there for another guy, just kind of looking at offense. And I said earlier, if you don't play Ryan Wingo more, it's malpractice. Like, he's averaging 31 yards a touch. And by the way, I believe he's caught every target so far, if I'm not mistaken. If I'm not mistaken, when he had 3 targets in this game and caught all 3, he had 4 targets in the first game and caught all 4. So he's 100%, if I'm not mistaken, on his target rate as well. Dude, play that dude more.
Hey, Rod, I agree with you on that. I'll also say a couple of those weren't like easy catches.
No.
That was a contested catch tonight.
Yep.
On that throw by Arch. It was also a contested catch against Colorado State as well. Hey, right now we're talking Longhorn football here on Texas Football post-game show. I'm Bobby Burton, joined by Jerry Hamilton, Rod Babers, and Brian Robison. Longhorns win tonight 56-7. I want to show you guys the offensive stats if you're just now joining us. A lot of people just now checking in after the game. Let's put up the quarterback stats real quick, Matt, if you don't mind for us. Right now, guys, if you look at this, Ewers, 14 of 16, very workmanlike performance, 185, 2 TDs, 1 interception. Of course, the big news there, his injury. And then Arch Manning, 9 of 12, 223, 4 touchdowns throwing, but don't forget about the touchdown running. What did you guys think of Arch Manning's performance overall? We talked a little bit about it, but I want to go a little bit more in depth. Did he make the right reads? Did he stay? Like, I love the throw to Ryan Wingo because he stayed in there and didn't just bail on it, right? He actually took a little bit of a hit. The run, what did y'all think? What did y'all see from the young man out of New Orleans?
I think for me, when I look at it, even on some of those deep throws, I think the reads are only going to get better. They're only going to get quicker. I think the one deep throw with Ryan Wingo, where he was just absolutely wide open, I think that read took a little bit longer than we had all liked to have, especially when Quinn just goes out and he's got a guy bearing down on him. But overall, man, you cannot complain. The kid is a freshman, right? He didn't get much playing time last year. There was a backside blitz that we saw that he didn't see it at all coming. And then there was a few reads, especially in the middle part, that I felt like he wasn't making his progression as fast as he needed to. But I'm not really a quarterback coach, so I can't really talk too much on that. But at the same time, I look at it and I'm like, he's getting the ball to the guys he needs to get the ball to, right? And yes, you're going to look at this, you're going to say, well, it was UTSA. How would he have done against an Oklahoma, a Georgia, something like that? You cannot compare him to Quinn at this point. And I'll tell you why. Because Quinn, when he first started out, was very slow on some of his reads as well, right? And last year, he got tremendously better. This year, he has been on fire, absolute fire. There is a huge difference between a quarterback that is in year 1 in the system and a quarterback that is in year 3 in the system, right? For Quinn, this is year 3. Technically for Arch, this is year 2. So he's a little bit ahead of the curve already. So I think overall, I think Arch has an A grade in this game. I think he'll probably get some more snaps next week. I think we'll probably be very cautious with Quinn going into next week. And he's just going to get more and more opportunities. He's going to go back and he's going to call those Mannings. He's going to figure out what he needs to fix up. And next game, he's not going to make those mistakes.
What a resource, man! What a resource to have. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Hey, Rod, what you agree with Brian on that about Arch?
Yeah, I mean, the wild plays are there, right? You see the upside. That's tremendous. You see that. We're just looking for the consistency. And I think, and Sark has already said this. He said this, prior to the game, but you brought up, Bobby, the examples of it, that his first plays when he's come in and that first completion in that Tech game that last year, his first completion in that Colorado State game, and in this game were all that rollout flood concept. And he always kind of comes back to the crossing route too, which is it was Jonte Cook twice, and then it was DeAndre Moore for the touchdown this time. So that's an example of Sark. He's going to call plays that Arch is comfortable with, that Arch likes. That's a play that Arch likes. If I'm going up again, if you ULM, listen, they're going to run that play. All right. You already know that might be the first play they run against ULM when he starts the game. But I think it's a great example that Sark is going to make sure he stays within Arch's comfort zone and within the playbook. And to all the folks out there who are saying, yeah, how is he going to perform against, higher level competition? That is a valid point. But he's also going to get a week of practice as a starter too. That makes a huge difference when you can actually work all week as a starter and become more comfortable within the offense and know exactly the game plan and what coach want to call. In this game, he knew the game plan, but he wasn't working all week with the starters and working all week with the ones and getting those valuable reps in practice. That'll help him too. So I think he's going to – I honestly, I'm not concerned at all because I don't think there's a lot of risk in this game. I think naturally, like he's got that added resource that Brian talks about too to rely on. So I think he'll clean up any deficiencies in his game pretty quickly. And so I'm talking about how he's obsessed with being technically proficient. He'll clean that stuff up pretty quickly.
Let me bring something up real quick. Are we already seeing an Arch Manning Ryan Wingo connection right now? I mean, I'm just saying
Dante Cook.
It seemed like every time he turned around, that's who he was looking for, right? Especially on them deep throws. He was looking for Wingo to be open. And how about it? Wingo's open, right? So I'm looking at that and I'm sitting here thinking, I'm like, you got Ryan Wingo and Arch Manning that are possibly going to be together 4 years, but more than likely 3, right? You got Jonte Cook that's in that mix. You got DeAndre Moore that's in that mix. I mean, if you can't tell me that Sark has not set this team up to be ready for the future, not just this year, but the future as well. Sorry, I'm getting all excited. Let's Louisiana Monroe.
I'm going to give y'all an update. 13-12 Georgia. It looks like they're going to have 3.5 yard on the Kentucky, about 45. Kirby is so irate in the last minute and a half of this game. My only advice to Kirby would be, I wish he'd be this way about his team's speeding problems.
Oh, wow.
Well done, Jerry. Well done there.
Hey, guys, let's go to the chat. You guys have there's some questions here that they want to ask Brian, Rod, Jerry. Let's go with Chris Bennett. Was UTSA dirty tonight? I think they were a bunch of football games. I think it got chippy at times. Yep. Maybe because Texas did get injured on a couple plays, but I didn't see anything that was indicative of what I would call dirty play. Either of you guys, Rod or Brian, anybody?
Yeah,
I would say the only thing I saw was the chitter chatter with Sark. That would be my only deal. Like, there's no real point in just having it out with a coach. But other than that, I just think UTSA came in there like this is their Super Bowl. They're going to come in there and, especially the offensive line. They thought they could take some shots at some guys, maybe get in their heads, get some free 15-yard penalties, get down the field. You got to think a lot of times when you're outmatched, you're like, how can I get an edge? Well, if I can get a guy thrown out of a game, if I can get 15 yards here and there, like it gives us an opportunity to score. So I don't think they were dirty tonight. I just think perfect word for it is things got a little chippy because UTSA wants to make a name for themselves as well.
Yeah, good stuff. All right, let's keep going here. This one from Richard Diaz. He agrees with Brian and Rod, I think, here. The number 5 on Wingo's chest is really an S because that dude is Superman. He should be called that from here on out. He has done really well. This one from Husky Heisman Max. Manning is beating Dylan Gabriel in all stats while only playing 4 quarters to 12. Dylan Gabriel's got a lot of wins behind him, by the way. I've got to give Dylan Gabriel that much credit. The one thing that cracks me up is this post, actually, Brian and Rod. Edward Chodek. I'm going to pass on that last name right now. Did y'all see Arch Manning's Heisman odds just went from 150 to 1 to 20 to 1? I think we need to worry about that some other time. This one from Cole Sherrod. Hook 'em, gentlemen. Ryan Wingo has the potential to be a top 3 wide receiver in Texas history by the time he graduates and goes the first round. I think that was a fair one. This one is another Arch question. How much does the dynamic change with Arch likely starting next week as far as play calling? Will Sark open the offense all the way up? Jason, I am not so sure that Arch is definitely going to start next week. Let's see where this goes. But I will ask this question of the guys: does the dynamic change if Sark does start Arch next week? In your opinion, if you're the head coach, would you start a game with 8 consecutive passes like they did tonight?
Yeah, you lead with the pass. I've been saying it ever since the CJ Baxter. You got to lead with the pass, guys. Look at your wide receiving core. Look at that wide receiving core. Why wouldn't you lead with the pass? You lead with your opponent's fear. And I love the Texas running game. It's great, but you don't fear the Texas running game. You pray that they hand the football off. What you don't want, them start throwing at those wide receivers they got, because I don't have enough DBs to defend all those damn wide receivers. I just don't. Nobody does, really. Maybe Georgia. Maybe Ohio State's got some, but that's about it. So I think you lead with the pass. And even with Arch, potentially starting for Quinn ULM, you can lead with the pass all year long. Same thing, first half pass rate versus Michigan was 60%. first 5 drives versus Colorado State, you were upwards of 58 to 60%. That's going to be your early down pass rate. The problem is, we were talking about this on the end game, and Jerry brought it up too. What is the basic logistics of your run game now with, having injuries at running back and wanting to make sure that you safeguard, some of your running backs, and how valuable the touches for running backs are now that you got a couple of guys that, got nicked up and you got some guys that were out. So I think you leave with the pass. And think about when Arch first went there, the touchdown pass to Bond, right, where he gets the wide receiver screen. The first 2 passes for Arch were behind the line of scrimmage on that drive. They're like 5 yards behind the line of scrimmage. That's your run game. That Bond play, guys, that was just a run play. That's all it was a long handoff. That's basically going to be a lot of your running game going forward.
Good stuff. Hey, Brian, this one's for you from Marco Mendez. We also have a couple other people. Lou Dog is in here asking these questions. Brian, did Arakpo have the same quick get off like Simmons does when he was a young player? You could also ask that about Brian Robison too. What do you think of Colin Simmons and his get off the ball? Is it just a little shade different than even some of the best that have ever played at Texas, or at least equal to?
Man, I think just watching him, you're always skeptical about guys that are coming in, into college with just such high ratings and things like that. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I personally was skeptical. I'm like, okay, he's not super big, but he's fast, blah, blah, blah. Like, I'm telling you right now, especially after watching tonight, he has a knack for understanding snap counts. A lot of that is not just how quick he is off the ball. It's about understanding a snap count, getting a read, whatever it may be. And then once he is off the ball, he's got that extra step. He kind of reminds me a little bit of a Von Miller, right? And I hate bringing that up because he is an Aggie guy, but you cannot deny that his quickness off of the ball when it came to jumping the snap count and the way he was able to, the one pass rush tonight where he got the sack, where he kind of dipped and chopped, dipped and ripped, that looked like Von Miller to me. It really did. I mean, it was one of those deals where he's got the bend, he's got the flexibility, but also the quickness, not only to get off of the ball, but have that second and third step where the offensive lineman cannot catch up to him. And so, he's got something special going for him, especially for a freshman. And I think it's only going to get better.
They played him a lot tonight. We'll see. We'll check snap distribution tomorrow when they release that. But, man, he played a lot today. Rod, this from Trace Little. Can you talk about Manny Muhammad shutting down his side of the field? He looks special. What do you think there from Trace Little? You mentioned Manny a little bit earlier, Rod.
Yeah, thanks for the super chat there, Trace. Yeah, he's been great. Actually, he's been sticky in coverage all season long. What I've noticed most about him is how patient he is now playing off coverage, really how confident he is playing off coverage. You don't see him bailing out as quickly in his back pedal or when he's playing off or bail technique. He's sitting in there. And a lot of times he's playing the sticks, especially on third down. That's why you see him making a lot of big plays on third downs on the football, because he's playing the sticks. So situationally, he's just way more aware now. I knew him as a technician. I've been talking about him as a great bump and run corner and a guy that can be a press coverage specialist for you, which I think they want him to be. They haven't played as much press coverage early on. But what they have done is the DBs, while they're playing off, they've been relatively patient and allowed the wide receivers to break that cushion and been able to make a lot more plays on the ball. They weren't doing that last year, guys. Remember how frustrated we all were with them giving up easy completions, the easy inside breaking routes, the quick game, underneath game, even on 3rd and 6 or 7, they're giving up 5 to 6 yard completions. That's not happening anymore. And I think it's more because they're situationally just more aware. And the guys are just playing with a football IQ and a football acumen that they didn't use last year as much.
Just going through some other chat stuff here. Colin Simmons, call me D1. I got work to do. There we go. Good. He had a good night. That is literally from 30 minutes ago, right after they get off the after they get off the field. Brian and Rod, I can't even picture you guys on social media right after a game now. That's that would
Thank
be
God.
unheard of. Hey, some context. We were talking a moment ago about just how good Sark situated the quarterbacks. No knock on Matt Nordgren. He's not Arch Manning, and he's probably not Trey Owens either. I like Matt and not a lot, but we got to be clear about that. A couple other things here that I thought were interesting that y'all might be able to talk about here. This one, Brian, is a little concerning to me because I don't agree with it, but I want to be able to illuminate and elucidate why. Is it just me, or has Trey Moore been a disappointment so far? That's the transfer from UTSA. I don't feel like he's been a disappointment. I don't feel like he's had a ton of opportunity to rush the passer.
No.
Given that they're going with Colin Simmons a lot in that package.
Yeah, I think the thing about it is the way you have to look at it, you have to look at things in context, right? So what you're getting right now with this Texas defense is you're getting a lot of teams that want to get the ball out quick. They don't want to give these guys opportunities to pass rush them. So when you're talking about Trey Moore, even Colin Simmons, Ethan Burke, Bassick when he gets in the game, the plethora of pass rushers that we have that can make plays, they're just not getting the opportunities. You look at Colorado State, they said, we're not going to let you beat us up front. We're going to get the ball out. We're going to get it out quick, and we're going to run the ball, right? You look at Michigan, obviously they are a run first, pass second team, but even when they had the pass, they've got a young quarterback. They said, we're going to get the ball out. We're going to try to, have some shallow crossing routes, get the ball out, give our guys opportunities to make play in the open field. You look at the game tonight, hurry up offense, get the ball out quick, quarterback's mobile, get around, get outside, make some passes outside the pocket. They just haven't had those opportunities yet. Those opportunities will come as we start getting into, more teams that do run some play action pass, that do, maybe some of these more pro style offenses, some of these more pocket passing type quarterbacks. You're going to see these opportunities. They come. I said it before, sacks come in bunches. And what you're going to see is maybe a 3-4 game stint where they're not really getting these sacks. And then all of a sudden it's like, boom, you got a 5-sack game. And then all of a sudden you got a 3-sack game. Well, now they're like, oh my gosh, like they're getting sacks every play. So it's going to happen. You just got to give these guys opportunities. But going back to the Trey Moore situation, I don't think you can be disappointed in him because he just hasn't got the opportunities to showcase his talents and why they brought him here to the University of Texas.
Good stuff there. It looks like Kentucky is going to lose to Georgia right now. Jerry, you can fill us in on that in a little bit. But look at this text, look at this Twitter from Vince Young tonight. Okay, I respect number 16. I see you, champ. Hookham from VY. By the way, Quinn Ewers, guys, tonight passed Vince Young as all-time touchdown passing leader at the University of Texas. Congrats to Quinn. What did y'all think of his play before he got injured? You think it was sharp? You think other than the interception, maybe? I mean, he's getting quicker in the red zone. That toss, we talked about the red zone problems for Sark all off season, and one of the things needed to be Quinn getting quicker and more reliable in the red zone. I thought Quinn actually did that again today. Y'all agree with that?
Yep, I agree. I think Quinn's gotten much more comfortable in the red zone. I think a lot of they've gone to more straight drop back in the red zone, help him get into his progressions faster. Everything happens faster in the red zone. So one of the trends I've noticed is a lot more straight drop back in the red zone for Quinn. I think that's trust for him in the system, but also so that he can get into the progression quicker, or once he's identified the matchup they want that they've isolated, that he can immediately get to it. So I like what they've done with Quinn in the red zone. And I think Quinn looked sharp. The interception was weird. I don't know if that's because of the thumb or the hand issue that he had when he got hit on the follow through. I'm not sure what that was, but he seemed to recover from it pretty good. So it didn't seem like it was debilitating. That was just one of those very strange plays. And then that was a play where the pressure kind of got to him a little bit early on. That may have been the only other play where I've seen him look a little bit discombobulated, but I thought he played, great to start the game.
All right, here's one from Ted Price. Love this offensive creativity and depth. We aren't that far removed from having to fly to Tulsa to beg for offensive coordinators. We all know that, but look, it's a new dawn right now because Rod and Brian and Jerry have all talked about it. There's just a depth on this team, and frankly, there's as much depth at quarterback as there is at any position on this team right now. Brian, this one's for you, man. Our D-line has given up 2 touchdowns in 3 games. The defense as a whole, I think, has given up 2 touchdowns in 3 games. That's a pretty good start for your defense, guys.
Yeah, that's pretty salty.
Yeah, and y'all said, Brian, you and Rod both said that they played more straight up tonight. There wasn't a lot of gimmicks. It was just basically let's go beat our guys. The D-line was part of that, but the defense as a whole, they're definitely passing the eye test right now.
Yeah, they're fast. I think they're versatile. One of Sark's buzzwords. Right, you got a lot of versatility. Even Brian talked about how the D-line. You got a lot of different guys. I think they can play. They're playing multiple shades. The versatility in the scheme, I think, is helping too. So I just think overall they've made these incremental improvements to the defensive philosophy and into like the roster construction, more speed, more versatility, adding some of Johnny Nanson's exotic looks. They're more multiple now. I think that they're more matchup based in terms of them trying. That's why they got in trouble early in the game when they was like 9 players on the field. They had to call the timeout.
Yep.
Trying to get their like a special package in there for their short yardage. And I think that's to me, that's more of a kind of a Nansen fingerprint thing. They've been much more I would say specialized in terms of matching up even with Michigan and where they were matching up with Michigan in their power personnel grouping. So I think that's just because they have the luxury of doing it with all the versatile athletes. So the defense it's going to be a strength. And I don't know if there's a level of the defense as a weakness. We assume maybe the defensive backfield, maybe the interior D-line. I think both have passed the test so far.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said, and I'm going to add one thing to that. You also got a luxury that you almost have 5 linebackers that are willing to come up that have a DB in front of their name, right? Most colleges don't have that. They don't have DBs that are going to be physical in the run game as well as the pass game, and that's one thing I've been extremely impressed with is how physical our DBs are in the run game. I mean, you look at the one play tonight, Jahdae Barron. He could have easily sucked down inside on that 4th and short early in the game. He reads it perfectly, takes on 2 blockers, not one, takes on the first one, gets out of the side of the second one, cuts it back inside, and you've got a plethora of guys that are just crashing downhill. That is not only smart play, but that is physical play from your DBs that you just don't get a lot of times.
That's a good point.
All right, guys, we got a couple other things going on here. CJ Vogel has sent the presser over. We're going to try to get to that here in a second if we can. Have a couple more questions as well. What about this one from Q? He's saying after another year in strength and conditioning, Ty Smith might push for starting time. 100 people in here. We all need to hit the like button. Thanks for doing that, Q. But I want to say this. It's not so much about just Ty Smith. He looked good tonight. That's the freshman out of Jasper, the linebacker. Leonga LaFau. I mean, Texas just has so many young guys right now that look good.
Yeah.
And that is Ryan Wingo. Jonte Cook's only a sophomore. Arch Manning is only a true sophomore. These are young players, by and large, that beat UTSA tonight. I mean, they had some veterans in the secondary, to Rod and Brian's point. They had some veterans on the defensive front, but they also rotated in a bunch of young guys. Anthony Hill's a sophomore. They've got a lot of young players on this team that I think they're getting there. Jesse Germany has a question for us. I'm late to the chat, and maybe it was already covered. But what is your assessment of Quinn's play today before he got hurt? I want to that was a question I asked earlier, but I want to mention this for people that did just come in. We're hearing it's an abdomen strain. That's what Sark told the media during halftime. Also, we're also hearing that it shouldn't be a long-lasting injury. Of course, we'll have to wait and see what that exactly means. Will he miss ULM or perhaps even more? Or is he going to be healthy enough to play this coming week? I don't think that it's as serious maybe as some people feared at the outset. Okay, Jerry, you have an update for us, or you have anything you want to add to this conversation? You've been listening to these.
I thought one of the great things tonight for Quinn before the injury was Quinn and Isaiah Bond are starting to get in the same rapport that Quinn and Matthew Golden had to start the season. Because that's one of the things I was pointing to in this game is, Isaiah Bond still only played 2 games with Quinn. Matthew Golden's only played 2 games with Quinn. And then you get a chance to see Ryan Wingo get some time with Quinn on the first drive of the game. And that's the thing that really kind of sucks about Quinn's injury tonight is I think these next 2 games before the SEC, I was really looking forward to Quinn getting on a better and better rapport with Isaiah Bond, with Ryan Wingo, Silas Bolden. They're going to want to work in more and more of those guys. And I think that's going to be the time missed here if Quinn doesn't play the ULM Monroe game, is that some valuable reps as Sark's still trying to build the rapport with all these guys as he integrates Ryan Wingo and Bolden more into the offense. That was my takeaway. What really sucks about the injury. But I think before that, you're starting to see Quinn get on the same page with Isaiah Bond like he's been with Matthew Golden since the beginning of the season.
That's true.
I love that idea. I really do. Because I think they need that. They need that a lot. Golden continues. I want to say this about the receivers, by the way. And I was going to say it earlier when we were talking about them. Other than Velton Gardner, the backup running back, I didn't see another drop pass today. I mean, there have been some contested catches that have been dropped, but maybe one true drop by a receiver all year. That's pretty strong.
And I mean, you go back to even last year or the year before. I mean, you got Xavier Worthy and Adonai Mitchell, and that was kind of the knock on Xavier Worthy was the drop passes. You're not having that issue right now. And I'm going to knock on wood right now because you don't want to have that issue, but it seems like these guys are very in tune with each other. And what I'm saying with each other is the wide receivers are very in tune with the balls that they're getting from their quarterbacks, whether it be Quinn or Arch. And there just seems to be that comfortability that they have, catching those balls, things like that. And I don't know, maybe it goes back to something they're doing different on the practice field. Maybe it goes back to, just catching balls from them guys in general, all the time they put in the summer, all the time they put in fall camp. But there's just something about it, Bobby, exactly what you're saying, that you just aren't seeing a lot of balls that are just hitting the ground. And let me add something to that. You go down this list right now, and you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 different guys that caught the ball tonight.
Wow.
10 different guys that caught the ball tonight. And what's crazy to me is every one of these guys are playmakers. Let's just take the 3 running backs out of it, right? Let's just call that an extension of the run game with Niblett, Wisner, and Gibson. You got Ryan Wingo, you got Isaiah Bond, Gunnar Helm, Jonte Cook, Matthew Golden, Silas Bolden, and DeAndre Moore. You tell me who's not a playmaker there in that bunch when they get the ball in their hand.
We talked about it all offseason, Brian, and you're right. And I'll add this. It's not just the receivers. You got to talk about Gunnar Helm now being too. I mean, it's
and don't forget when you add Jaden Blue to the mix. I know you took the running backs out of it. Is him. He's had 6 targets in the first 2 games of the season. So when he's added to the mix, he's basically more of a passing weapon than he is a running weapon right now. So even to the point, that's why you lead with the pass, guys. You got to lead with the pass. Look at that group of receivers. I know Longhorn fans don't want to believe it, but you're going to be a pass-first team this year. And it started to just let you know it in this game. First damn 8 plays were passes. It's a pass-first team, guys. It will continue to be.
Look at how Kansas City uses Pacheco. To me, that's kind of a similarity there. You've got a guy that's very speedy, very shifty, can run in between the tackles, but also can hit that flare pass, create just madness on the back end with defense trying to game plan him, because you got a game plan for 4 receivers out there, and you got a running back that can flare out, and the linebacker can't cover him. Yep. So, I mean, what do you do?
Pray.
Well, if you're the Kansas City Chiefs, you win Super Bowls.
Exactly.
maybe win a national championship on the way there. Hey guys, each and every day our game we try to name an offensive and defensive player of the game. I'm going to be that guy, and I'm going to go with Arch Manning, even though Quinn Ewers tossed the ball more, 14 of 16. Arch came in, played the majority of the game for the Longhorns. I'm going to go with Arch Manning in this one. Rod, Brian, you guys have a different offensive player of the game or someone y'all want to mention?
I don't know how you choose anybody other than Arch. So I mean, I'll go Arch, but then I'll just give a honorable mention. Can I do an honorable mention for somebody out there on offense? I'll go honorable mention to Ryan Wingo just because he's just a
Rod took the words out of my mouth. Literally, that's literally what I was going to say.
You guys have a sense. I'm just gathering this from listening to you guys here. This is our second game together, actually. Have a sense of appreciation for guys that change the game a little bit and make you respect the other team a little bit more. And that's where a guy like Ryan Wingo keeps getting brought up and said, hey, we got to integrate him more because of how big he is. And he's catching these 50-50 balls downfield, et cetera. That's good stuff. All right. On defense, Anthony Hill led the team in tackles tonight with 11. Colin Simmons had 6. Was there a defensive player of the game? And if it was, I couldn't sit there and tell you that one single player showed out. I almost want to give it, and this sounds odd, but I want to give it to the secondary based on just listening to you guys and give it to them as a group. You guys are both really, really high on the secondary right now. And maybe it's because UTSA doesn't have a great passing team. They're not known as that. But what do y'all think about defensive player of the game? Anybody? Anthony Hill would get my nod if you had to go with an individual. Led the team in tackles with 11. Nobody.
I think for me, I'm gonna go with Colin Simmons, and I'll tell you why. It seems like he's gonna get the guys going as far as getting in the backfield, getting the quarterbacks down. He kind of put the blueprint out there today. Barron Sorrell had some big plays today too. He had a TFL early in the game, but Colin Simmons, as a guy who had a sack tonight, 2 TFLs, and 6 tackles from a defensive end edge rushing position, that's pretty salty.
In his third ever game, in his third college game.
Yeah.
I like that. See, that's how good the defense is. We got more variety. I'm going to go with big man touchdown, dog. Big man touchdown. Come on.
There you go.
Big man pick 6. Ethan Bird with the pick 6. And when he gets drafted one day, as you know, Brian, that's going to be on the highlight reel, man. When he gets drafted, boom, get the pick, and then dive into the end zone. So I'm gonna go with Ethan Bird, man. I even look at really with stats. What do he have? I think he had 3 tackles in the game. 3 tackles. He ended up with a big pick 6. So I'll go with Ethan Bird. I think Ethan Bird, he deserves it.
Hey, and if I'm Ethan Burke, when I go back to the film room tomorrow, I'm gonna tell my buddy wearing 51 on his chest, hey man, you don't throw them Longhorns up till you block that guy that's chasing me down.
For real, you almost cost me a pick 6, man. For real.
Hey, Jerry, one recruiting question, and then we'll wrap up here on the On Texas Football post-game show. This one, any intel, Jerry, on the reaction from the visiting 5-star Michael Terry out of San Antonio Alamo Heights? I know it's early. They also had a defensive lineman in from the state of Georgia that's currently committed to Florida. I don't know if the same coaching staff is going to be intact in Florida in the next couple of weeks. Anything on the recruiting wise that you've heard?
No reaction yet from those guys. And Michael Terry will still visit Oregon in October. He'll be back probably for another Texas game. Nebraska will try to get him back on campus. That one's going to play out a while. Joseph Mbaktu, the D lineman from Grayson, is going to be interesting because obviously I don't know when Napier's getting fired. He may already have. I don't know when they're going to announce it, but he's done. So that one will probably come down to Texas, Georgia, and Alabama. In reality, that's what's going to happen. Georgia's making a real push there, but it was a big deal to get him and his father on campus today. First time he's ever been in Austin. First time he's been to Texas. So that's a big deal to get him on an unofficial, because that means you can get him back November for an official visit, hopefully. Javian Osborne, the junior running back from Forney, one of the best backs in the country. He was there with his father. He sent me a photo. I tweeted that out, obviously. And Elijah Bo Barnes was there. So it was a good night. The reactions will be all positive from this game. I think the other thing to watch, though, what's the reactions of guys that weren't at this game? Kevin Wynn committed to FSU, okay? A guy that Texas will get back on campus this year. Is there any doubt for LSU guys? LSU's not – they got lucky today. If Lenora Sellers hadn't got hurt, they were losing that game. They're going to have more losses. They've had some rough injuries. What is going to be the reaction of some kids that weren't at the Texas game that are committed elsewhere? That's really what I'm going to be monitoring coming up here, because Joseph Mbatu, he has other visits. He hadn't been to Bama before. He'll go to Georgia. I think USC's trying to get him on campus. So there's a lot to play out here with some of these guys, but I'm really watching for Kevin Wynn at FSU. What's he really going to do with FSU? Can Texas get him back on campus coming up for October? But obviously somebody asked about Jonah Williams. He was tremendous last night. He beat up my Mustangs. We're at the same Mustangs from the early 2000s. Don't get me wrong, but 45-yard catch and run, pick six play, interception play in center field, 6-yard run, very physical rod. Jonah Williams, that's as physical as I've ever seen him run in the alley now. You commit to Texas, you're ranked a 5-star. Expectations come with that. You got to be the baddest dude on the field. Jonah Williams physically is playing like the baddest dude on the field, upsides through the roof.
He's unbelievable. Like I said, I can't imagine there's a better safety in the country. You said there's like one that may be on his level. Can you say?
Yeah, DJ Pickett out of Zephyr Hills in Florida. Yeah. LSU's telling him he's going to play corner. He wants to play corner. So that alone, does that make him not the top safety? If you don't want to play it, probably in our business.
Yeah. Hey, guys, we got a couple more things I want to get to tonight before we say goodnight. One of them is CJ Vogel, who is inside DKR, I think. CJ, how you doing, bud?
Fellas, what a game, right? Shout out to you, Rod B. 56-7. I think you said 56-6, right?
Yeah.
Tip of the cap as someone who was a point off a week ago to you. A point off this week. Apparently we know ball here, Bobby. But man, what a game.
Hey, CJ, got to ask you, Arch Manning in the presser, Steve Sarkisian, we didn't get a chance to play his audio. What were your takeaways from the presser? Any news on the Quinn Ewers injury as well?
Yeah, Sarkisian says he doesn't believe it to be super serious. Of course, they will go on and do future testing with him, obviously, with the medical staff here, after the game, going into the weekend and on to the next week. Fortunately, again, Sarkisian made it sound like he was in positive spirits, which is also what I was able to kind of construe from a few sources after the game. Quinn was in good spirits as well, but not believed to be super serious. They don't expect him to miss a lot of time. Of course, it was a bit of a scary situation, right? He goes down. You don't really wonder why or how or what the issue was. However, you sit him out this game. I don't expect him to play against ULM. I think he's probably less than likely to play against Mississippi State. And then you have the bye week. And then it's really all about getting him fully healthy against Oklahoma. Fortunately, again, Sarkisian doesn't believe it to be super serious. And you never know with these obliques and abdominal injuries what might become a long-term lingering thing. I think they err on the side of caution, especially with the way that Arch was able to step in and perform tonight.
Man, I do not like the idea of going in to the OU game dry. I will say that. So I'm a little bit worried about that. But I did want to ask you about what Sark had to say about Quinn or about Arch Manning tonight.
Yeah, I really liked what he had to say. I know that there's different skill sets with Quinn and with Arch. Fortunately, we prepare for Arch in every game that we go into in case a situation like this occurs. And when something like this occurs, the offense doesn't change all that much. Arch is still able to come in, and Sark didn't say it, but I kind of got the sense that he meant that the offense might expand with Arch, right? We saw the QB running ability, something that I think Texas tries to shield Quinn from. He can do it, but he's not a guy that's going to have a direct read option keeper for 70 yards like we saw tonight. With that, I think that moving the pocket was more of a strength to Arch in what we saw tonight and what we've seen of him as a Texas Longhorn so far. But Texas has a plan for Arch. They know the plays that he's best suited for. And I thought it was really interesting having talked to Arch a little bit tonight. That chemistry that he has with Ryan Wingo It was on display tonight because that they have so many reps and opportunities in practice with the 2s and with the 3s. I think that's going to be really special. You might not see it in full turn this year, obviously with Bond and Golden being kind of the 2 go-getters right now. But for 2025 and potentially 2026, Bobby, you're looking at maybe one of the best quarterback to wide receiver connections in all of the country there.
All right, CJ, we appreciate you tonight, bud. You go get your stories written, get them on Texas Football. We'll talk to you a little bit later tomorrow for Rapid Reactions. That's CJ Vogel of On Texas Football. Hey, guys, one last thing, and this is something we're all fathers here nowadays. I want to share this from Steve Sarkisian and what he said tonight. Sark, on watching his son Brady Sarkisian play, when he got in tonight, I took my headset off and I played dad for about 3 plays. I just watched my son play football at the University of Texas. That was really, really awesome. All right.
That is cool.
Good stuff. Good for you, Sark. Good for your son as well. One last note. This has been brought to you by our friends at Flight, the next generation of light beer with only 95 calories. It's an upscale light beer designed to elevate the customer experience with more taste and just 4.2 carbs. Flight's an easy-to-drink beer with a crisp taste. Try Flight from Yuengling. Thanks to the fine folks at Flight and our friends at Faust Distributing. Brian, Rod, and Jerry, any final comments on the night? Longhorns win big, 56-7. Endure what Rod called adversity a little bit, unique adversity, but they win. Final thoughts from anybody before we let everybody go?
Final thought, man. I mean, for me, this was meant to be. I got 3% left on my phone battery, so so there you go.
Perfect timing.
What about you, Rod?
Yeah, I mean, I think every week we've seen something that makes us feel like this team is going to be special, and I think we saw it again. This time it was the depth of the team. Last week it was playing on the road, beating a big-time program like Michigan, a blue blood defending national champion. The first week it was, hey, get a shutout. Get a shutout. That's big, man. Those don't happen a lot. So every week I'm still seeing things that make me think, hey, man, this is going to be a special group.
Mine is college football in general.
Yeah.
Okay. Wisconsin's starting quarterback goes down. South Carolina's starting quarterback goes down. NC State's starting quarterback goes down. Quinn goes down. I may have missed somebody. This was a wild day. Why it's so important that Steve Sarkisian's the head coach at Texas. You don't have to worry about your quarterback room. Try being FSU right now. Okay? Most teams don't have a quality second anymore because of the portal. Texas is in good hands.
You got a quality third. You actually got a decent third.
And Jerry, I'm going to add to that. The parity right now in college football.
Great point.
I mean, we're sitting here talking, and listen, I'm not trying to be Debbie Downer, but we're talking about how major of a victory it was last week against Michigan, and Michigan only beats Arkansas State today by 10 points.
That's wild.
Right? You've got Oregon football team that has barely squeaked by the first 2 weeks, and then they absolutely dominate an Oregon State football team. You just don't know what you're going to get week in and week out with these football teams. So take it as a blessing that we're sitting here and we're nitpicking a 56-7 win by these Texas Longhorns.
Damn right.
Good place to be, Brian.
Hey, this will be a good one. That's a good way to end it, guys. A big win for the Longhorns, 56-7. Thank you to Brian, Rod, and Jerry, as well as our producer behind the scenes, Matt Hutchison. Good night, everybody. We'll be back in the morning with Rapid Reactions. Hook 'em, 56-7. Texas beats the Roadrunners of UTSA.